Any connection, or I mean, sorry, predictions? You can raise your hand and I'll unmute you, or you could type it in. Oh, Kaylee has a prediction that Helen's probably going to have to move away. Um, why do you think that, Kaylee? I'm going to turn your microphone on.
Because in the book they were saying that they were gonna have all the Jews move or be relocated.
That's right. And so that's a very reasonable prediction. Okay. And then we also have another prediction that you guys are going to learn a lot about World War II. That came through my chat. Um, Jacob has a connection that he thinks that Ellen's going to get caught. Why do you think that, Jacob? Maybe you could just type it into the chat and we'll wait for you. Yep, I had one person type in saying she'll probably get caught because she's Jewish and maybe she's trying to hide and it doesn't work out for her. So if Jacob has a minute, we will go back to his idea. I'm waiting for it in the chat to show up. But for now, I'm going to scroll down because we have a lot to get to today. Okay, just a little recap from last week. Basically, the goal or purpose of today, whoops, sorry, I went a little fast there, is to communicate and share our thoughts and questions about the book, to collaborate with each other and to learn more about the theme and purpose of the book, to think critically about the theme and the topics that are presented, and to think creatively as well. So basically, when you're doing your book club jobs. And all of you had different jobs this week. I'll just warn you, the last time I tried to turn the screen over to everybody, it didn't work. Hopefully it's going to work now. We'll see. Who was and there might be more than one, who was the discussion director from last week? So you could type it into the chat if it was you. Okay, Simon. So Simon, I'm going to turn your microphone on. And I know that your webcam's probably not working, but I'm going to try to share your screen. If it doesn't work, Simon, you're just going to go through it verbally. So, okay, Simon, take it away. Oh, his mic isn't working either. Okay. Um, Here's what we're going to do, Simon, because it's going to take a couple minutes for you to do that. You're going to type your 3 discussion questions into the chat, and I'm going to let somebody else share their job, and then we'll come back to you. How does that sound? It's kind of hard when your mic and your webcam isn't working. Okay. Who was the quotable quoter from last week? All right, Ashley. I'm going to unmute Ashley. And I'm going to try to turn the screen over to you. So take it away, Ashley.
Well, I don't know what's going on, but I have a paper right here that I could just read off.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like we're going to be viewing your screen in a minute. So if you have your job pulled up on your screen, that's what we'll see. But if you want to just share your paper, that's fine too.
Okay. Well, I don't have it on my laptop, so.
Oh, okay. Go for it then.
Hey, quotable quoter. One funny part from the story was the part when Christy got her new shoes. It was funny to me because in the story she says, "I won't ever wear them. Not if you chain me in a prison and beat me with sticks." I found this on page 29 through 28 in chapter 4. It will be a long night. I chose this selection because Christy was being very overdramatic, and that made it funny to me because younger children are always overdramatic, and that always has been funny to me.
Okay. So does anybody else have any comments about that? The over dramatized conversation they had? And you guys can speak up and basically comment on what Ashley chose to take from the book and think was important. And you guys will get better at this, but Ashley, I know you had another quote, so why don't you go ahead and share that one?
And one important part from the story is the part in the book when Anne Marie talks to her parents and Peter about what the soldiers are doing to all the Jewish people in the town. I chose this section because the main idea of this story is about what the soldiers did to the Jewish people. I found this on page 22 through 25.
Very good. So I think that's an important quote that she took out of the book as well, because that gives you a little bit of background information about what's going on and the person talking to their parents and learning more information. Do you guys have any comments on that? Do you agree that that was an important part? Yeah? Okay, well at least we got some head nods, so we're making progress. I'm going to go back to Simon and his discussion director jobs, or I'm sorry, questions, and I will share his questions orally, and then you guys are going to just raise your hand, and I'll unmute you, and you can tell me your thoughts. Okay, Simon's first question is, why did the Nazis close Mrs. Hirsch's shop? Why did they close her shop? Or why do you think they closed her shop? Okay, Tyler, I'm going to unmute you. Go for it, Tyler.
I think that the soldiers closed the shop because the Germans didn't like the Jewish people, and the owner of the store was Jewish.
That's right. So they started closing all of the Jewish shops. So people couldn't make a living anymore. They basically started, before they actually were putting them, on trains to go to concentration camps. They actually were just trying to make life really hard for them by not letting them into stores, by closing their businesses, and being just really mean. Okay, the second question. I'm going to scroll back up to Simon's second question he had. Okay. How do the Danes make shoes with fish? Anybody have any ideas? How did they make shoes with fish? Simon, why don't you type into the chat and tell us how they made them? Oh, from their skin. Okay, so they used the skin of the fish. Good. I'm seeing some things come up through the chat. And then he also wanted to know, um, with their drier skin, good. Are these good shoes? Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's a real important part of the book, but it definitely is interesting that they made shoes out of fish. That's something you don't see today. And yes, Tyler, they slipped them on. Jack, I believe you were the discussion director as well, because sometimes people, have the same job because there's a lot of us. So, Jack, I'm going to unmute you and you can share your questions with us.
Why were there no pink cupcakes left?
Okay, so Jack wants to know about the cupcakes. Um, any thoughts on that? All right, let me unmute Tyler. Tyler, go for it.
I don't think there were any cupcakes because the sugar and the other ingredients needed to make them were being given to the soldiers that were fighting.
That's right. So basically, they had to start, rationing out things that you would take for granted every day and making sure that the war, that the soldiers had what they needed before anybody else. And so, yeah, there probably wasn't enough sugar to make any cupcakes at all. All right. They did not have enough sugar, and Simon is telling us that he had one more question retype it into the chat again, and we'll share your question. And oh, Kaylee also reminded us that the Germans destroyed the railroads that goods went back and forth on. So that's good. Okay. Jack, you had a couple more questions, I'm sure. So you are still unmuted, Jack. You can share your other questions. Maybe Jack stepped out for a minute. We'll go to Simon's question. If the Danes had resisted, what would have happened? What would have happened if the Danes had resisted? And you guys can raise your hand, and then I'll call on you, and it might go a little quicker than typing it into the chat. Of course, I can't see everybody, so I'll say that question again. If the Danes had resisted, what might have happened? Anybody? Well, Simon thinks that the Danes probably would have been flattened. So, in other words, their military wasn't as built up, I would say, as everybody else's. And so, if they had tried to resist being taken over, they probably would have been killed. And that's true. Okay. Did anybody else have the job of quotable quoter? Anybody else, or are we moving on to the third? I think we're moving on. Okay. The summarizer. Who was the summarizer from last week? Anybody? I can pull up the list and I can check and see who was the summarizer. Maybe I'll do that. Let's take a look. Oh, Caitlin. Okay, Caitlin says that she was the summarizer, so maybe we can get her to turn on her microphone and hopefully her webcam, and you can summarize for us. Go ahead, Caitlin. Your microphone's on, so you could just read it to us if you want.
Read
Your summary.
read what? Like,
Read your summary that you made from reading chapters 1 through 4. Because if that was your job, then that's kind of what we're hoping that you'll share with us.
okay, can I go get it real fast?
Sure. Okay. Did anybody else have the job of summarizer by chance? Or was it just Caitlin? Looks like it was just Caitlin, so we'll wait for her. We can skip ahead to Kaylee because she was the connector. So I will let Kaylee share with us.
Unmuted.
Well, one of the connections I made was that me and the girls and stuff, we both have school.
Okay, so you both are students, basically, is what you're saying. You related to the characters in the book because you're about the same age. That's good. Any other connections that you made?
No, I
No?
got a little confused with some of the connections.
Okay, well, you still made at least one connection, so I am proud of you. Who was the illustrator, the fun job from last week? All right, Tyler. Okay, Tyler, I am going to. Did you do it in a notebook? Do you want to hold it up to the screen, or did you do it on your computer?
It's still on my computer. I took a screenshot of it. It's on right now.
Okay, I'm going to do my best to turn the computer over to you. Okay, did it come up on your end saying something like, show my screen?
There is nothing.
All right, let's try one more time. I don't know why that's not working today. It wasn't working in the last one either. Do me a favor, Tyler, and email it to me, and I'll pull it up on mine. Okay?
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can get my brother to help me with that.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll come back to your
I'll
job.
be right back.
Okay. Who was our word wizard? Anybody? The word wizard was supposed to find interesting words and share them with us and tell them why they thought they were interesting. So I can actually go and find who was who last week. All right, it's taken a minute. Okay, for today, we had Simon as the discussion director, Ashley as the quotable quoter, Nicholas, you were also a connector, Caitlin was the summarizer, Tyler is our illustrator, Jack is the discussion director, Jacob is a quotable quoter, and Kaylee is a connector. So, we haven't heard from you yet, Nicholas. Would you like to share your connections? Nicholas, you're unmuted.
Um, uh, well, one connection I made was that the when they were running, and then they got stopped by the Nazi soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of like on my old school, we weren't even allowed to run on the playground, so
Yeah,
and
that's
then our
right.
teacher would, if we ran, then our teacher would get all mad. So
That's kind of crazy. You weren't allowed to run on the playground. That's interesting. But yeah, that's a connection.
yeah,
Tyler, it looks like your screen actually might be working. So um, it says waiting to view Tyler's screen or now viewing it. So do you have your picture pulled up, Tyler? I'll unmute you. Sorry, you're unmuted. Okay, we are looking at Tyler's screen and there is his illustration. Go ahead and explain it for us.
So I actually took something straight from the title, and it was Number the Stars. It wasn't really what the book topic is about, but I did it because it still shows the number stars,
Yeah,
and it just made somewhat sense to me as soon as I saw the title and got my job.
right. That's
Kind
what
of,
you thought of. Tyler,
it's
I
not
think
what
it's
it's.
fantastic. I think it's a beautiful representation of Number of the Stars. And once you started to read the book, maybe your idea changed a little bit, but this is still really cool. So thank you. Looks
Whenever whenever it tried to explain how Anne Marie was lanky, I tried to find a picture, but I couldn't, so
oh,
that's what I got.
yeah, well, that's good. That's still good. All right. I'm going to change the presenter back to me. Okay. So we'll go back to my screen. All right. We're still waiting on Jacob. Jacob, your job. He looks like he's paused right now. Are you there, Jacob? He's there. So we have two more people to share, Caitlin and Jacob. So, um, Jacob, are you ready? Okay, you're unmuted, so you can share.
I made a connection on the book about on page 16.
Yeah.
I'll read the part that I.
Sure, that'll be great.
King Christian was getting old, and he had been badly injured last year in a fall from his horse. So I made a connection, or I wrote something about it, and I said, I think it's kind of sad that King Christian fell off his horse, and he's probably badly injured because he's really, really old.
Yeah, he probably is really injured. Okay. Anything else, Jacob?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, and I'm going to turn on not Ashley, I'm sorry. I'm going to turn on Caitlin's microphone, and you can share your summary, Caitlin. Caitlin, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and share your summary.
Okay. So they were running well, they were walking back from school, and then they decided to do a race to the corner.
Okay.
And they were racing, and then they bumped into German soldiers.
Yep.
And they were taking over like the country.
That's right.
And then they were at the German soldiers were they were asking the kids all these questions.
Right. Why were they asking him questions?
Because the German soldiers were trying to take over the country, and the kids were different kind of. They were like.
Were they trying to figure out if they were Jewish? So that they could remember them? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Caitlin. Oh, it looks like your microphone went out. So, whew. I'm thinking next week we'll have you, or well, actually next week is fall break, but for when we meet again on October 25th, I might have you guys share your jobs with me beforehand, just in case your screens don't work or your microphones don't work or your webcams don't work, then I could at least pull them up because then it'll go maybe a little faster. Okay. Caitlin, you're unmuted and it looks like you're back. So if you think that, you want to finish, go for it.
Well, I think the soldiers were asking all these questions because they wanted to find out what all these kind of things with the kids.
Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. So we will definitely make sure that we share our jobs with me ahead of time next week, just in case you can't get your microphone to work or whatever. All right. So let's look at what we are going to be responsible for our next set of assignments. We have reading chapters 5 through 8. You're going to have a new job, so I can look at that schedule again with you. You're going to be given new vocabulary words. and you're going to make a connection and a prediction. Okay, so we will talk about that at the end of class. I'll give you a couple more vocabulary words. And Simon, we don't meet again until October 25th because we have fall break. So I'm going to unmute Jack. It looks like he has a question right quick, or he has more discussion questions.
Yes, I have more discussion questions.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's take your
why was
questions
Anne
before we have
Marie?
mine.
Why did Anne Marie have to pretend she was the sister?
Okay, so why did Anne Marie have to pretend that she was the sister? You could type it into the chat or raise your hand. Let's have Tyler, go ahead.
I think that Ellen had to pretend to be Anna Marie's sister because if not, then she would be what the Germans were calling relocated.
Yes.
And she probably wouldn't be with her family, but either way, she can't be with her family.
That's right. Yes, she didn't want to have to move. Perfect. Okay, Jack, do you have another question?
Yes. Why were the German soldiers taking away the Jewish?
Oh, so that's a pretty deep question. So why would the German soldiers do this to the German people? Okay, Nicholas, let me unmute you. There you go, Nick.
They did it on orders of Hitler, I think.
That's right.
Because he thought Jewish people were bad.
That's exactly right. And Simon just typed basically the same thing into the chat, that Hitler ordered them to do that because he blamed all of the problems that Germany was having on the Jewish people. After World War I, Germany was really struggling. They weren't doing so well. They had lost the war. People were hungry. People were out of work. And so Hitler came to power and he convinced everybody that if there were no Jewish people, that they would be living better lives, which is really unfortunate. But people were desperate and they wanted somebody to believe in, so they believed in him. And they believed that if they got rid of the Jewish people, that, like Hitler said, their lives would improve, which obviously isn't true. Okay. All right, guys, I have a couple discussion questions. I really wish Simon's microphone would work because I'm probably going to slaughter this German word here, but I'll do my best. Okay, what is the Die Dansk and who bought it and why? And it looks like this makes me really happy. Ashley already typed in her response, which is really cool. So let's read what Ashley said. Die Dansk means the Free Danes, and it was an illegal newspaper. Peter Nielsen, Anne Marie's older sister's fiance, is the one who brought it to them so that they could get news on the Nazi soldiers and what they're doing. They were blowing up buildings full of weapons so that they couldn't fight back. And yes, Simon sent me his answers as well. So let's go through these first, and then I can pull up Simon's. Any other thoughts on number one? That was a pretty easy one. It's just an illegal newspaper, but it gave people kind of an insight as to what was going on. Okay, number two. Who are the resistance fighters and what do they believe? Okay, I'll share this response. This is fantastic. I'm glad somebody took it upon themselves to respond before. We have the resistance fighters were Danish people, but no one knew who they were because they were secret and they were determined to bring harm to the Nazis however they could. They believed in sabotaging the Nazis because the Nazis were very brutal people. So they damaged the Nazi trucks and the cars, and they blew up factories. Any other thoughts on who the resistance fighters were? Okay, the resistance fighters also kind of led way into the Allies. Eventually, when war is actually established, then of course, people are blowing up German things and trying to fight against them. But this was before war was actually even declared. Okay. All right. Oops, sorry, went a little too far there. Who is Lise and what happened to her? Lise is Anne Marie's older sister who had passed away in an accident 2 weeks before her wedding. Does anybody want to give a little bit more detail on that and maybe why she passed away or what happened? Or did we have any more detail? We don't know why she passed away, but did it say anything else? No? Okay. That's all right. Okay, well, this was an easy question. What religion does the Rosen family practice? And why is that a problem? The Rosen family is Jewish, and that's a problem because the Nazi soldiers are relocating Jewish families, which means they could get captured, and that definitely makes it a problem. So this was the part before the war where they were pretending that they were being that they were doing everybody a favor by relocating Jewish people. Eventually, they're going to move into a period of time where they don't make it a secret anymore. They just capture Jewish people and ship them to concentration camps. Right now, they are quote unquote relocating them, which sounds a little less harsh. Okay. All right. How did the Nazi occupation change the lives of the citizens of Copenhagen? Okay, the Nazi occupation changed the lives of the citizens of Copenhagen who were not Jewish because they would not be able to get the supplies they need. In the story, Katie needed a button because one of them broke in half. When they went to the shop to get it fixed, it was closed because a Jewish woman owned it and the Nazis made her close it down. My point is that what if a Jewish person owned a grocery store and the Nazis made them close it, that would affect all the people in the town because they can't buy the food that they need. Yeah, any other thoughts on that? Ashley, you did a fantastic job, and so did Simon. I'm going to pull up Simon's responses here in a minute. This makes me really happy that you guys actually typed in some answers to the questions before we even met today. That was perfect. Any other thoughts on how this changed the people's lives in Copenhagen? Okay, give me a thumbs up if you're just ready to move on. Okay, alrighty. But you guys did good. These were really good responses. All right, and I have some new vocab words, and actually I'm going to probably save you guys a little bit of time and email those vocab words out to you. You have until the 25th of October, so you don't have to worry about it right away. I'm going to look at Simon's answers and just see if there's anything different. Okay, let's see. I'll have to search for him. As you can see, I have about 8 million different different documents. Okay, let's see. I think this might be the one that Simon typed on. Nope, that was from last week. Okay. You guys are going to look at your jobs for next week. I'm going to pause my screen and then I'm going to look for Simon's answers. So you guys need to find your names and figure out what your jobs are for next week. Okay. Sorry, I'm moving along pretty fast. Whew. I'm going through my thousands of documents. Okay. All right, it's loading. Okay. So I want to go ahead and vocalize some of Simon's thoughts too, because if his microphone's not working, then we need to give him a chance to speak, and that will be through me. So, okay. So going back to the illegal newspaper, he said it's an illegal newspaper that Peter brought, and he brought it to keep the family's hopes up. So that's a different idea, that he thinks that the family needs to, keep their hopes up and see that people are actually fighting the Germans. Yeah, that's great. That's a new take on it. The resistance fighters were the Danes, and they wanted to strike back at the Nazis in any way they could to make the Nazis pay for the sorrow that they had caused. So that's a great thought, too. I didn't even think about it that way, that they were trying to pay them back. Good. Okay, and number 3, that was an easy question. It's Anne-Marie's older sister. I'll move on. Okay. The Rosen family is Jewish, and the Jews would be relocated by Nazis. Relocated meant basically disposed of. It was a nice way of saying that they were going to be shipped to a concentration camp. Okay, and the Nazi occupation, it made everybody's lives harder and more dangerous in Copenhagen. Perfect. That was great. Okay, guys, I'm getting a couple questions in the chat about being the quotable quoter and being the summarizer and kind of what that means. If you go back to your Google Docs, I sent all of those jobs out to you, and you were supposed to, well, first, let me just ask, who watched the video that I sent on how to make a copy so that the document becomes their own? Good. Good. So what you need to do is you go back into your Google Docs, and I'll show you what it looks like, and it looks similar on yours. So you'll go back to your Google Docs, and it's taking forever. Mine says Google Drive, but that's the same thing. You could go to documents that are shared with me. You can see how I'm over here on the left, and it says shared with me. Click on that, and then you'll be able to see my name pop up, and it'll have all of those different jobs that I shared with you. Okay? And so you'll go back, and you'll look at that job. So let's just look up quotable quoter. And you will make a copy of it for yourself. You'll say make a copy, hit OK, and then you'll rename it. You would name it like Jack, quotable quoter, and maybe put the date. And then you can just type your responses right onto the document itself. Okay, give me a thumbs up if that made sense. Just kind of a little recap on what you're supposed to do there. Good. I will be sending out to you, because I don't want to sit here forever and tell you vocab words. I will send you a little list here in a minute of different vocab words for you guys to look up in addition to the job that you'll do. Remember, next week is fall break, so there will be no virtual classrooms next week because it's fall break. And then the following week, we don't meet again until the 25th. We don't meet on the 22nd, which is Monday, because a lot of people are still out of town when they take a fall break on a Monday. And then we have the field trip on that Tuesday. So it's just really busy. So we'll meet again on Thursday, the 25th. Okay, sound good? All right. Yes, Simon, you do have school on the 22nd, but you just don't have virtual classrooms on the 22nd. So, all right, guys, it's been fun. Give me a wave goodbye.